And welcome, everybody. This is Thursday, July 8th. What did I say? It's Math 2.0 Day. I put that in the announcement this morning when I was reminding people to come out to our session today. I was just looking at some statistics, and we started in May 2020, and we've been doing most Thursdays ever since. We take some days off for like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we took last week off for the 4th of July. So we've had 52 sessions, and we started with registration somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 people, and now we're having regular registrations of 40 people and somewhere around the neighborhood of 20 who show up. So it's exciting that this has continued on. We do have a committee, an ICTIG, the Topical Interest Group committee that is thinking about professional development. So I'm sharing what we're doing, and I've shared that if they wanted to get more involved, that I'd say we're open to that conversation. With all things AEA and all things really large organization, if you sit around and wait for people to give you, a permission to get things done, you may never get anything done. And I think that's one thing a bunch of us have learned as independent consultants. At least that's been my experience. So we got this thing up and running quickly because we knew there was a need for people who wanted to connect during the pandemic. And we found that it's caught on and people still want to connect. We as independent consultants find ourselves, in our houses, in our basements, in our, the room across the hall from our son's bedroom, getting things done. And we do find, I think a lot of us are looking for connection. And so that's what these independent consulting IC topic chats are all about. And when you get to the conference, you'll see each other and you'll be like, oh my God, look, it's Amy, it's Susan, it's Kurt. But we do that anyway, and this just hopefully will make it more exciting. So today we're going to talk about insurance. Oh, look at that. It says mission identification. I've already made a mistake on my slides. Can you imagine that? I updated this from my slides from a couple of weeks ago. Well, anyway, we are going to talk about insurance despite what the first slide says. So I'll fix that. As I said, there's over 135 posts that have been put to the AEA e-group. By the way, if you don't know about this, write something in the chat, and I'm sure Susan or Anne or Kurt or somebody can respond, but this is a great way for you to ask questions. And this is, clearly a lot of you have found out through the e-group posts that I put out there, but if you haven't used this, then feel free to use this. This is a wonderful way to connect with people in whatever time you want to do it. I guess it's called asynchronously. And certainly I'm going to try and answer as many questions and talk about as much as I know about insurance, but I'm not an insurance agent, thankfully. I think I would really hate my job if I was one, but I am not an insurance agent. I'm not an insurance broker, so everything I tell you is based upon just my experience as an independent consultant. I would start by going here and searching before sending out a post, because there's 135 posts about insurance on the e-group. So do that, and when you invariably do have a question, put it out there, and I guarantee somebody will answer it probably within 10 minutes. Oftentimes there are people just waiting to respond to these things. It's funny. But you'll certainly see a lot of responses within a day or two. I find myself thinking about insurance more than I want to think about insurance. Last week was my 50th birthday, which was kind of an exciting time. And I was going to go to work, but then I said, why am I going to work? The only thing I have to do is go to this meeting at 2 o'clock. Well, little did I know, my family had conspired with my coworkers to surprise me at this meeting. And I said, well, I'm not going to that meeting. That's stupid. It's my birthday. I'm not going in. So then they had to think of something else. So the cat was out of the bag. They told me, hey, you need to go to this meeting because we're going to have cake. So they did decide to surprise me with sorry, I have it in my notes here. They did decide to surprise me with a, where is it? Oh, here we go. With a piñata. And that piñata was just filled with candy. And I thought, what in the heck am I doing with a piñata in my office? and they had this big long metal stick that I was supposed to hit it with, and they were going to blindfold me. And I thought, this is crazy. So I said, I'm not getting blindfolded in my office. And so I lifted up the stick, and we have glass sitting up high in the office where I was, and that stick just hit the glass, thankfully did not break it. And before I pounded it down on the pinata, and I thought, my first question to myself was, do we have insurance for this? And so it begins, you know. Anyway, so those are the little things that you think about. So today I want to talk a little bit about these 5 different areas of insurance. You're going to find that depending on where you are in your cycle of life with your independent consulting practice, you may or may not need all of these types of insurance. The general liability is typically the first kind of insurance you should get. And we're going to talk about that. Professional liability, you often won't know you need it until it's in a contract that you have to sign. And that's how it happened for me. I got a bigger contract, and then it was long. It was from a university, and it said, you need all these things, including professional liability insurance. And I remember thinking to myself, what's professional liability insurance? So the property insurance, I want to talk a little bit about medical and health insurance and workers' compensation. And then I have a whole long list of other kinds of insurance that you may want to think about too, but I'm not going to go into extreme amounts of detail into those. So again, as a reminder, submit questions as we're going along. I'll look at those at the end and maybe ask Susan or Kurt or Ann or somebody to help summarize them for me so I know I get to them. These are the 3 that most of us get. Workers' compensation, you're not going to need until you have employees, but you don't need it for yourself. So general liability. This is your basic insurance that you need to cover any kind of legal thing that, I mean, every business should have one of these. I didn't know about it until I started the business. I moved into my office, which was owned by an insurance company. And they said, you need general liability insurance. So I said, why? They said, you do, because everybody needs it. It's the little things that if you have just random things that happen that aren't necessarily related to your practice as an evaluator, but just associated with your business. And I have a list of things that I pulled from a website: bodily injury, property damage, advertising injury, copyright infringement, reputational harm. Those are a list of things that I think the Hartford Insurance Company put out there. The little things like when you go to a conference and if you were presenting and one of that people pay to be at your presentation as like a pre-conference workshop, like what I do, and somebody trips over your cord and you know, smashes their head. Hopefully they sue the hotel first, but yeah, at a certain point, if you did set up that your presentation, they could potentially sue you and that sort of thing. So it's just the random things that are associated with doing your business, but nothing specific to your work product. Let's see, how about professional liability? And this is the one a lot of us get hung up on, and we probably will spend a lot of time talking about this in the discussion time today. It's insurance that has to do with what you're doing as a professional with your professional product. Now, you can imagine that there are companies like architects and engineers. They have very, very expensive professional liability, because when something happens bad as a result of their work product, people die, buildings fall on top of each other. Imagine our Florida situation, that building, whoever designed it, probably in a lawsuit, and that would be covered under their professional liability. Like I said, you usually find out about this when you're securing a large contract and it's listed there. The kinds of harm, I'm not familiar with a lot of harm that could happen out of our evaluations, but if you are making recommendations, and we often are, and we're making statements about, we're making evaluative decisions, we're making statements about the quality of their product. Perhaps that it could affect our clients in the ways that they can, if we say something negative about them, it could affect their ability to get contracts in the future. I wouldn't suggest to any of your clients that they would think about these sort of things, but potentially they could come back to you and they could say, you harmed our ability to do this with your faulty evaluation. So I don't know anybody that this has ever happened to, but it's out there for a reason. Actually, I'd love to, under the discussion, if somebody could give me examples of anybody who's ever had to call in on their professional liability, which is why it's usually not extremely expensive. So when you go to look for a professional liability policy, I think you're talking about a 1 million, 3 million policy, or a 1 million, 2 million policy, 1 million per incident, 2 million total. Check with your professional association. I get mine right now through AERA. I think that Susan has shared in the past that she gets it through the American Psychological Association, or ATA. AERA is American Educational Research Association. And I think I shared this a couple weeks ago. I have been told from Anisha Lewis, but I haven't heard any recent confirmation on this, that AEA is considering getting a shared policy for professional as a professional association for professional liability insurance. So just count that as a rumor, okay? Because she did share that with me, but she has not confirmed it, and I've asked her a couple times about it. So anyway, professional liability, if you're getting it for yourself, the first time I got it through my insurance broker, and it was like $1,400. And I thought, well, I guess it's just the cost of doing business. And then I found out that I could get it through AERA for $265 a year, and for myself. And so I thought, well, I've certainly been overpaying for this. So make sure you shop around and think about it. Now that I have 6 employees and I forget how many subcontractors, it is a lot more expensive for me. I'm over $1,000 a year now. But before I was, you know, I think I was with the membership and everything else, I think it was about $400. You should make sure whoever you're talking to, you know, advocate for yourself. Make sure that the risk for your professional liability is pretty low. You won't find a lot of people, and hopefully we'll talk about this, but you won't find a lot of people who are having to call in claims against their professional liability insurance. I'm not familiar with any. Usually somebody says, oh, I've heard about a thing, but I personally I'm not familiar with anybody who's ever had to call in a claim on a professional liability insurance. Sometimes it's called E&O, or errors and omission. Sometimes it's called professional liability. In most states, because I think this is set up by states, they're the same thing. I understand in New York State, it's not. So again, not an insurance expert, but just sharing my experience. The one thing I added to this presentation from the last time I did this, also make sure you're asking your policy when you're interviewing people to get your policy, about what it costs for an additional insured. So I have a client, Southern Illinois University, and they requested as part of our contract that they be listed as a additional insured, meaning they want their name on the policy itself in case something goes wrong. They can call the policy people, and they should be fast tracked into a policy, into getting their whatever the payment they need. I had to pay like $80 or $50 to get them listed, and I thought, I was just kind of a little miffed about that with my insurance company that we work with through AERA. I've worked with other organizations like my running club. When we do additional insured, it's free. It's like they don't even think about it. They just do it. It's done that afternoon. The company I work with, I have to send a check through the snail mail to them, and wait a period of time, and then but anyway, ask about it, because if you can avoid problems with that, you want to do it. Property. Okay, so sometimes these are called marine policy, and somebody's explained it to me, but I still don't understand who the Marines are involved with this. But anyway, sometimes you may have renter's insurance. If you're, like, for instance, in the office I'm in, I guess technically I'm supposed to have renter's insurance. I probably should. I don't think I have that. Your property, this is going to cover your equipment. Like if you have expensive computers or scanners, that's probably the main thing you want to thinking about with your property insurance. I wouldn't insure furniture, because if you're like me, I do everything through Facebook Marketplace, and I buy, like the desk I'm sitting at right now, I probably brand new. It's a couple $1,000 or something, but I paid $200 for it. Just went out to a place that was shutting down, and we've got these desks, come get them. and they were going to take basically anything. Oh, this desk I got for free. See, why would I cover my furniture? Just don't even worry about it. You may be required to have this property insurance, the renter's insurance, if you rent or lease your space. Nobody's ever asked it for me, so I don't have it for my space right now. You may not need it if it's covered through your home policy. You may want to ask questions about how setting up a business inside your home works. If you need separate insurance, I've never done that. I'd be interested in anybody's comments on that after we get done. Also note that when you buy things on your credit card, oftentimes your credit card will insure property, and particularly like laptops and things like that. So check with your credit card to make sure you understand what's being covered. Major medical and health. I've learned so much about medical and health through pain and agony and strife. It is terrible. First of all, I just want to move to Canada. This is one of the main reasons people don't start in independent consulting practices in the United States of America is because the cost of medical and health insurance. If you're an individual, the cost of continuing to maintain an insurance plan can be very, very steep. In Canada, it's covered because it's a public health system. So if you're like me, I stayed on my wife's insurance. Your spouse or your partner, if you can do that, that's the way to go. And my children and myself are on my wife's plan, and so she pays a pretty hefty premium. When you get to the point where you're ready to offer health insurance, and I thought I was, so we got a big contract last year, and part of what I said I would do is provide benefits to my employees. So I've been in the process of setting those up over the past 9 months. And so we did go out and we got bids for doing health insurance, and it was a really lousy plan for a whole lot of money because we only have like 5 employees. And so we looked through a lot of different things. I went through insurance brokers, and I found that nothing was meeting our needs because we have some people who are on, like myself, who are on a spousal plan. We have some people who are on some strange plans. There was one of my staff that didn't have any insurance at all, and she was going to go through the marketplace, and I couldn't find anything that fit all of our needs. The truth is, I didn't really want new insurance. I wanted to stay on my spouse's insurance, my wife's insurance. And that was the case for a couple of us. So we finally found this program called QSERA, which let me see if I get this right. Qualified Small Employer Health Reimbursement Account. That is, it's pronounced QSERA, QSEHRA. And so we signed up with this company called People Keep. Anybody wants to know about this, I'll make sure I share this information with you. We pay a premium of about $1,000 a year. That's probably about, I forget it, something like $12 per person per month, plus some flat amount that I pay. So figure out the math on that. But so I pay that. And then what I do is I put a certain amount per employee into an account, $500 per employee per month into an account, and they can make a claim on that money as long as it's a qualified medical expense. And a qualified medical expense is pretty broad. It could be for them, it could be for their kids, it could be for their spouse. It could be just a reimbursement for the premium they're paying to their spouse, which is what I intend to do. We just got this set up, by the way, so I'm very excited about it. Now, my insurance brokers would not do this for me. They would not recommend it. I asked them about it. They made it sound like they didn't even know anything about it, like it didn't even exist, though we knew it did. I was told directly in my state that it was not even something available in my state, which was untrue. So this is why I've always been a big fan of insurance brokers, but be careful, okay? Because insurance brokers are out to make sure that they can get a policy that benefits them. And I was a little bit disappointed because I've always felt like the people I work with have been pretty honest, but here was a situation where that's not the case. So we did know, we found out about this QSERA program, and we had to keep asking and asking. I finally hired a friend of mine who is a former HR director at a university. And so she says, I can figure this out. So she got it figured out in like 20 minutes. I mean, it was like, of course she knew how to do it. That's what she did for a living for like 30 years. So she set us up. And I think she got a premium for helping set it up. Like they paid her some money. I was like, well, good for you because you got it done and none of us could figure it out. Anyway, Sarah set up where I put $500 per employee into an account. They make a claim to the company. For us, it's People Keep. And People Keep approves it or denies it. And then they tell me, the employer, who to reimburse. And they tell me how to reimburse it. And it's all above board, which is really great. So some of us have thrown our hands up in the air in the past and said, I think somebody on the call, I don't want to throw out the name, it just pays like $10,000 a year to their employees and says, here, go do good things with this. But the problem with that is they had to pay taxes on it and you have to pay taxes on it. This is all pre-tax money and it's all, so the $500 I give to my staff goes directly to them for medical expenses. All right, enough with medical and health. But as small employers, it's just really cost prohibitive to set up a true medical plan. So that's why we do this. And it helps support people to be on the exchange if that's what they want to do too. Workers' comp. First thing you need to know about workers' compensation is once you get into those bigger contracts, it's going to be a requirement. And if you're a one-person show, you don't need it. And you need to mark through it. You need to read your contract carefully and know that workers' compensation is not something that you're required to do unless you have more than one employee. And the one employee is you. Second employee would be the person you hire to work with you. Now, you may need workers' compensation and you may want to ask insurance companies about this if you have a subcontractor working with you. I don't know the answer to that one. But if you have a full-time staff person or a part-time staff person working with you, and they're, particularly if they're working on site there, they could get injured. You need to have it. It's the sort of thing that states are requiring for state contracts and things like that. So you have to pay for each of your employees. So I have 5 full-time employees and I pay $240 a year. So it's not super expensive. It's just, you know, another little way they chip away at us for things that we've got to pay for because we get bigger. Again, make sure your carrier knows that you're a low risk because, I mean, what are we going to do? You know, hurt my finger pressing Alt-Tab too many times, going back and forth between windows. The truth is a lot of us are doing work sitting down, sitting at computers, doing data analysis and writing reports. We are moving around more. We're going to see people, but the reality is we're not getting up on ladders. We're not lifting heavy objects, those sorts of things. So other kinds of insurance we want to make sure we cover. Travel insurance. Why would anybody want travel insurance? That's what I was saying up until the February 2020. Then I kind of thought I wanted travel insurance. I remember Gail Barrington saying she gets travel insurance for everything. And Laura Keene and I looked at her going, why would you want all that travel insurance? Like you're spending so much money on that. And sure enough, she made us all look bad because she had travel insurance and it was the sort of thing that covered these major disasters. And so a lot of us lost out. Now I think a lot of the flight companies and things like that when COVID hit got better, but they realized this was a maintenance thing. They needed to maintain customers, but there are a lot of us who lost out on things. So travel insurance might have made sense. So think about it. Life insurance, make your own judgment on this. You may want to do some research on whether you want life insurance or you don't want life insurance. I get at least monthly something from AAA about how I could do life insurance. We personally don't have life insurance, but it is the sort of thing is actually when I was dealing with the brokers before I got into the plans that the Sarah, man, were they pushing life insurance on us hard. And that usually when somebody wants something really badly, it's because it's really a good idea for them and not necessarily for you. So use your own judgment on whether you want to have a life insurance policy. Me and my family, we do not have a life insurance policy. We have investments that if we needed to tap into we'd be fine. Auto. So if you're using your vehicle for work, you may need auto insurance. If you're on the process of driving to and from a client's office and you get in an accident, it may not be covered. So you want to make sure you're thinking about that. Talk with your auto insurance company about that. Now, when you're traveling, whole other thing. So if you're a one-person show like I was for the longest time, I asked my auto insurance company about when I travel, and they said, well, here's this other little policy. It's something like $20 a year you want to have that for when you're renting, when you're out and about. Check with your auto insurance company about that. Now, I'm in a situation where I have several employees traveling for business. One who's leaving next week, and she's going to be gone for 5 weeks in 5 different locations all over the country. It's really exciting stuff. She has a history of being a poor driver. So the first time she went on her first trip, she didn't have insurance, you know, basically for the company. She was using her auto insurance, and I thought, oh no, we can't do this anymore. So she's now taking out all the policies that they offer when you go to the you know, the car rental desk. So she is doing that because I don't need any, you know, liability for the business because of that. Think about extended warranties. I think a lot of people, I just bought my iPhone and I just got another notice about that. You may or may not want an extended warranty. A lot of times they're designed because people don't use them and they know that that's an easy way to make money. You may want to think about it. If you're a not-for-profit, think about directors and officers insurance. Sometimes it's called D&O. It's also sometimes called professional liability. But if you are, if you're worried about a claim going back to the directors and officers of a organization. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association, and we definitely have directors and officers insurance for that, because if some kid gets hurt on the common property and they sue the subdivision, I don't need them tapping into my kids, you know, into my kids' college accounts. And then finally, an umbrella policy. This is the sort of thing that the insurance companies love to sell because I don't think they ever get tapped, but it is at the end of the day something that is an umbrella or a coverage for over and above everything else when other insurance doesn't cover things. So let's see what I got next. So as I like to do with wrapping things up, I have about 5.5 suggestions for you when you're thinking about insurance. Insurance probably will save you money. I used to say they will save you money, but I had some bad experience lately, particularly with that QSARA program that I was telling you about. QSARA meaning I wanted to use it. I knew it was something that was available, and my insurance brokers told me it wasn't available to me, which was not true. It's false. But an insurance broker is supposed to shop the difference between an insurance broker and like Allstate or State Farm is that the insurance brokers can provide you a wide variety of different insurance, and they're going to shop it to try and find you the best rate. We're working with State Farm. State Farm can only provide you State Farm insurance. Allstate can only provide you Allstate insurance. So that's a suggestion. Think about an insurance broker. Know your NAICS code. It seems to be whenever you fill these things out, they want to know these things. Mine's 611710. If you don't know yours, type in NAICS code into the E group because there was a long conversation about it about 6 months ago. And so a lot of people chimed in on their NAICS code, but there's a lot out there to learn about that, but you will need to know it when you're filling out this stuff. Consider a QSARA plan, and a QSARA, that's again where you provide an amount that people can claim and they can use it however they want. And there's another company, a third-party company that reviews those claims and approves them for you. And you don't have to know if it's right or wrong. Come on. Check with your professional associations for professional liability. I talked about AERA is what I have. I think Susan uses APA. And hypothetically, I'd love to be able to announce that AEA is going to have one. Maybe, we'll see. The question is out there, we'll find out. You may want to insure your expensive equipment. Nothing's worse than, I mean, if you're like me, I have a laptop computer that's worth over $2,000. If I lost it, it would be a big deal. But you don't necessarily need to insure inexpensive furniture like chairs and desks. So thanks for listening today. I want to remind you guys of all the different sessions that we have. Next week, we're going to have Lisa Kaczmarek. She is, by the way, the chair-elect for the ICTIG, so it's kind of exciting to involve some people. Cheryl, I think I saw Cheryl. Yeah, Cheryl's here today. She's going to talk about project management tips, which I think I'm going to learn a lot from that one. I could probably use a lot more with project management tips. And then in a couple weeks from now, we're going to have a panel session with Iris, Kurt, and Jessica Gibbons-Benton. We're going to be talking about growing pains. So it could be somebody who's moving from like a one to a multiple kind of a person operation, like what I did recently. And just as a quick aside, I'm going to try and make the 4th weeks of the month into panel sessions. So we're going to do first weeks as core topics and 4th weeks is panel sessions. And we're counting this week as the 1st week of the month, even though I know last Thursday was July 1st. So with that, I'm going to stop recording and let's do some chatting.